do. Perhaps one of the most anticipated games in 2022, and now perhaps one of the most hated. But is it as bad as everyone says? Some people are adamantly defending it, and others are saying it's hot garbage. Let's take a look at Callisto Protocol. There you go, Chinesey peasy. What the? Now what's happening? Picture, if you will, you're Jacob Lee, a humble cargo ship pilot transporting supplies to Black Iron Prison, the penitentiary on Callisto, one of Jupiter's moons. But when you touch down, you're instead seized by security and tossed into a cell. You go to sleep, but when you wake up, prison has gone to hell in a handbasket, and the prison has been overrun by space zombies, and now you have to get out of the planet while unlocking the secrets of Black Iron and Callisto. And that's it. The story is as bare bones as you can get. There are space zombies and humans talking about the betterment of humanity. Considering these are both in the trailers, this is not a spoiler. Now, with that, take a guess at the plot. You'll probably get it right on your first try. The story doesn't try to present it as a mystery either. Most of the game you are completely focused on escaping, and you get several information dumps throughout the game. And outside of a few oohs, ahs, and oh my gods, Jacob seems rather detached from it all. Can't really blame the guy. Focus on escaping the zombie-infected prison, then wonder about it later. The game doesn't frame the infection nor the creatures as any sort of mystery. You'll find audio logs scattered throughout, but they do little to enhance the experience. It usually boils down to bad shit happened here, which is okay in the single audio itself, but when those are all the audio logs that you can get your hands on, you'll feel like there's a missed opportunity. Now, the idea of using a formulaic plot isn't inherently bad. Look at the first Avengers movie, look at most horror games, but usually they build upon the formula, try to put their own spin to it, or tell it in a way that captivates the audience. But you have to dress it up on a structure in which it looks good, and there's very little dressing on Callisto. Now, this is a horror game, and you may be wondering, is this game scary? Well, the answer is a flat no. But now you might be saying it's because I'm hard to scare, but even many streamers on YouTube do not find this game scary. The game in fact has an over-reliance on jump scares. Now, jump scares aren't a bad thing. They can work. But you are lacking atmosphere building moments. What do I mean? Flickering light, footsteps, bodies dragged down the hall, dark silhouettes that wander off. Sure, in other horror games these can lead to jump scares. In the Callisto Protocol there are a handful of moments like these, but the vast majority of the horror is comprised of in-your-face jump scares. Say you figure at the end of the hall, it'll be a jump scare when you get close. Open a chest and there's a parasite inside, jump scare. You finish looting a chest and you see a zombie rush at the window in front of you, jump scare. Now, what this game does do well is the design of it. I considered calling it atmospheric, but that would imply a sense of horror and tension. There were a few moments that stood out to me. A greenhouse area where you can hear monsters in the trees. A snow field with dozens of frozen monsters, and you know some of them are going to still be alive. Or a moment where I enter a hall with volumetric light aimed at me and a few zombies rushing in. While not scary per se, these moments were designed very well and got the horror-loving side of me tingling. My favorite moment is when I entered an area filled with steam, and I see an enemy that relies on hit-and-run attacks and that also crawled into the steam. And even though I wasn't scared per se, I was giddy as I knew it meant I had to rely on my other senses to avoid or fight this monster in an area with low visibility. I guess I should also take a moment to talk about the performance. If you watched my playthrough, you know that the performance I got was complete, utter hot garbage, with moments where the game would only go one frame every few seconds. It's also why I didn't use grip as much as I could have, as the moment I picked up an enemy, the game would effectively freeze. I've heard the PS5 version runs like a dream, and I've seen other PC playthroughs that only suffer occasional frame drop. Personally, I can live with a less than stellar performance. I mean, has anyone played the original Dead Space on PC? That ran awful. At least I managed to get it playable by maxing out the graphics and every options available. Or my old computer when I first played Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Not only did I have to bottom out every graphics, I had to shrink the window to less than 1/9 of my monitor, just to get it to perform somewhat well. Callisto Protocol? Completely unplayable for me. I have an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650, so if you're thinking of buying this game, you'll want to do additional research to see how well it runs for you. Anyone who's a fan of Dead Space, who's seen the gameplay, will immediately make the connection. But one or two mechanics aside, this game is Dead Space in aesthetic only. This game is a melee brawler with guns as a supplement. Instead of shooting zombies at a distance, you're getting down and dirty with your melee weapon to beat space zombies to a bloody pulp. If you aren't attacking or aiming your gun, and you're holding left or right, you will automatically dodge a melee attack. If the monster has more than one attack in the combo, you need to alternate. So if you're holding left when it attacks, you'll dodge. But if it has another attack in the combo, you'll have to hold right to dodge the next attack. And if it has a third attack, you'll need to hold left again. The inverse is also true. Hold right to dodge the first attack, hold left to dodge the second, hold right to dodge the third. Direction and timing does not matter, only alternating left and right. And I'm not exaggerating that timing does not matter. And the moment you enter dodge animation, you can just go right to the next button. And the direction doesn't matter either. It could be a swing from the left, it could be a swing from the right. Just hold a direction, and it'll dodge all the same. All that matters is that you alternate for each swing. This is the gameplay loop. Dodge through an enemy combo, then retaliate with your own combo. You'll either finish a melee combo of your own, or the enemy will block and interrupt it. In either case, you're going to have to go into the defensive again. Rinse, repeat. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
Straight uppercut, left, right, hook, knockout. 1-2 combination it's a knockout. I jump in head first. This is a knockout. Right hook, knockout. Left hook, knockout. Straight uppercut, left, right, hook, knockout. 1-2 combination it's a knockout. I jump in head first. This is a knockout.
You can also block by holding back, but you will take some chip damage. There is a small stealth element to the game. You can sneak up on enemies that don't see you and stealth kill them, but there isn't much to it, as enemy patrol patterns are simple and you don't exactly have any stealth tools nor hiding spots like chests or cabinets. It's mechanically simplistic. And I don't mean easy to learn, hard to master sort of way. There's nothing to master. Now keep in mind, this is all combo based, so if an enemy has only one hit combos, then you can simply hold one direction and you're effectively untouchable. Now, I have to stress, do not try to be overly aggressive. If you see an enemy, unless you stagger them somehow with a telekinetic attack or your gun, do not throw the first swing. They get hyper armor while attacking, so you'll trade damage. Also, do not try to attack in the middle of their combo. Defend until the combo is over, then attack. If you want to get in the first blow, stagger them. Defensively, it's rather boring. Hold and alternate to dodge. But it's when you go on the offensive that the fun begins. Your melee has a number of upgrades that can make the loop work. A heavy attack that can send enemies flying, and you can run up to them and begin a new combo before they can recover. At the middle of your combo, you'll get indicators where you can just quickly pull out your gun and shoot. Chain these together and you're effectively John Wick. There's even an upgrade that will interrupt enemy combos by blocking, letting you attack sooner. Even offensively, it's still mechanically simple, but it's cinematically satisfying. Even if you yourself aren't putting much skill into John Wicking these space zombies, it certainly looks like Jacob is. I do strongly encourage you to take advantage of the full move set. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in monotony, tapping your fingers until the enemy is done swinging, then boredly mashing light attack until your combo stops. Most games force you to use the other tools in your arsenal, while in Callisto, you can make it through the game using nothing but the basic loop. It'll be hell, but at least it's possible. Now, I did learn there is such a thing as perfect dodge. If instead of holding dodge you tap it at the right moment, you perform the perfect dodge. You'll know when you did this when the game slows down. I even heard that if you pull off a perfect dodge, you can retaliate with your own swing, interrupting enemy combos. This was huge when I first heard it. I even had to rewrite half this review in preparation for this revelation. It would be the missing component to making this gameplay loop work. And then I had to undo it afterwards. Why? What did I find? Well, I would pull off a perfect dodge, and still be unable to interrupt the combo, instead trading blows. Shame. You even have your own telekinesis module, letting you pick up enemies and deposit them on spikes, cliffs, and all sort of beautiful hazards. This sort of gameplay loop unfortunately struggles when it comes to enemies. Now, it's not completely broken. If you see a mob coming for you, don't lunge in like an idiot. Use your tools to try to take them on one at a time. My favorite moment in this entire game is on a train where zombies were crawling over the sides. There is strategic dismemberment at play, so I was shooting at zombie limbs. Take off an arm and they can only do a one-hit combo, so I can escape ganks more easily. Take off a leg and they can only crawl, so I can avoid ganks altogether. I would use my gun to funnel them into fighting me one-on-one and run if too many of them got close. If I succeeded, I would pull out my melee weapon and beat them to death. And if I couldn't kill them before the rest caught up, I retreated. It was really fun. And if you see the mob coming, you can use your TK to thin the herd by tossing them onto hazards, or pull them into you so you can quickly end them one by one. But it works in these moments because I can see the zombies coming and react accordingly. There were also moments where they just sort of appear directly on top of me while I'm dealing with someone else. And sometimes you just play your cards wrong and get surrounded. And during those moments, you're kind of screwed. Combat that struggles in ganks is nothing new. Dark Souls 3 dodges carry you a distance, so you can get out if you ever get surrounded. Sekiro has a lot of high mobility. Even if its deflects keep you in place. For Honor has external attack indicators, and if you get hit in the middle of a parry, you'll auto-parry the second attack. Plus, if all else fails, you can activate Revenge. Callisto does none of this. Your dodges are stationary, and when you're surrounded, you have no choice but to turn around and run and take a few slaps to the back. I will say I've been watching other playthroughs of the game, and many struggle with the gameplay simply because they're playing it wrong. They will try to attack while the enemy combo has not finished, or they will try to hit first. Do not do either of these things. Do not attack unless the combo is over, or if you manage to interrupt it. Also, do not strike first unless you stagger them. I guess I should also talk about the health and inventory system. Like Dead Space, you don't have a UI. Instead, you get everything holographically displayed. Aim your gun and you'll see how many bullets you have in it. Your health and TK are displayed as holograms on your neck. Though it may be a bit too tiny. Color aside, it's very hard for you to tell just how much health you have. There's also inventory management. You can't just pick up everything. You will have to sell a lot of it at the shops. In fact, I would sell the ammo to all except 2 of my guns, and I was still at risk of maxing out my inventory. But considering that you should be mostly relying on your melee to begin with, this isn't much of an issue. I will say I didn't mind inventory management. Because of how I played, I could upgrade all my tools quickly and rarely had moments where I had to leave something behind. But if you choose a more run and gun style, you might be leaving quite a bit behind as you try to stuff your pockets full of bullets. Sell, sell, sell for your upgrades. Your melee upgrades are pretty vital to having fun with this combat system, giving you a heavy attack that can launch enemies or the ability to interrupt enemy combos, while the gun upgrades just do stuff like give you more damage and more ammo. Healing is different than how it's done in most games. Most games have healing keep you alive during the fight, but healing for Callisto is simply to have you recover between fights. It takes practically 5 seconds to apply health. Sure, you can try to be cheeky and heal during the fight, but if you think Ashen 1 takes forever to drink, oh boy. I would compare this system to how some games only return health from health stations you have to find, and you have to manage your health until then. This is more of a mobile health station than a health pack. I also need to talk about the checkpoint system. I'm sorry, I have no words other than it sucks. You'll go to a store, buy some stuff, walk into the next room, get killed, reload at the checkpoint before you bought your upgrades, and you'll have to do it all over again, upgrades included. You hit a checkpoint, proceed to explore a fork in the road, spend 5 minutes down one corridor, then go to the next, get killed, your exploration is for naught. Another example is between chapters. I usually stopped after completing a chapter. You'd think there'd be a checkpoint at the beginning of the chapter, but instead, I would be 5 minutes from the end of the last chapter. What? And manual save doesn't do anything either. Manual saves create save points out of checkpoints. What are they thinking? Near as I can tell, it's there because auto-saves override each other and manual saves don't. But it still doesn't make sense. You finish your upgrades, you make a manual save, go to the next room, die, then go back to the checkpoint before you got your upgrades. Still. So it's not a manual save. They might as well have done a "don't delete this checkbox" by your checkpoints. There are also parts that are just very weird. Halfway through the game, you encounter these blind enemies, so you have to sneak up on them. But I say they're not blind, they're sleepwalking. Why? Well, for one, you can make a lot of noise stealth killing them. Stealth, quote unquote, and they still won't notice a thing, which is strange in of itself. You can stomp on the ground, you break items, you can stab them to death, and they won't realize you're there. Okay, fine. If they woke up after stuff like this, I would be angry. I can forgive this oversight. But if you throw stuff, they don't investigate the sound. If you shoot a gun, you can't disappear into the night and have them investigate where you were last at. Instead, if you make a noise, they'll lock onto you like a missile. They can fully see you. There's no hiding again. They won't accidentally attack another infected because it's making noise. They only come after you. They aren't blind, they're sleepwalking, and you woke them up. Callisto Protocol is the biggest meh of the meh that ever made. There's a lot of it to unpack and a lot to consider. I'm still looking as to why my game performed so poorly for me, and you should do additional research to make sure it doesn't go as bad for you. So, what score will I give it? If I judged it based on my experience alone, I give it a 1! I do not use the phrase unplayable often, but it was truly unplayable, and I just didn't want to come back to it. The lowest possible score, a game to avoid at all costs. But let's say that it did run smoothly, as it might for you. And there were moments that it did run smoothly for me, and I can make a rough judgment of how it would be if it was smooth. What type of game is it if you don't have performance issues? I would give it a 3. If you know my review scale, then you know 3s are very meh games. It's not awful, but many of the ideas felt half-baked. Horror games usually build themselves off of cliches and tropes as a foundation. Callisto Protocol has the tropes, but never built anything off of it. The atmosphere is not scary in the slightest, but it's a lie to say they didn't nail it and as dark and oppressive. There is more than one style of horror, and Callisto Protocol still works as some of the other forms. The gameplay loop has potential. It's cinematically brutal and satisfying. The mechanics are bare bones. A few tweaks in it would be great. It's a shame too. The potential is on the walls. Just give it a few more months. There's potential here, just wasn't finished. It was taken out of the oven before it was finished. You'll like this game if you like dark, oppressive environment design. I'm not talking about the graphics. It's the way the levels are set up to surpass most horror games. If you don't mind mechanically simplistic combat in exchange for cinematically brutal experience, you are here for the cinematic experience, and I stress that. You like homages to sci-fi horror, even if the media doesn't do much with it. Side notes. Do not strike first unless you stagger the enemy. They get hyper armor and you'll more than likely trade blows. Do not strike until either the enemy has finished their combo or you found a way to interrupt it. The lightings. The storytelling for this game gets a green. It's formulaic to the point of cliché. If you like sci-fi tropes, sci-fi horror, or homages to sci-fi horror, you might find enjoyment in this game, but don't expect it to try anything new. The gameplay gets a red. I found some entertainment with it. I don't mind mechanically simplistic but cinematically brutal games. And I've had fun with this before, but not everyone will. Like I said, it's mechanically is as simplistic as you can get. A story that is very bare bones, but it pays homage to previous sci-fi horror games and movies. A gameplay style that is never done before. It's mechanically bare bones. I can't think of any game that has something like this. And not everyone is going to enjoy it. And ultimately, these three things, I think, will determine who this game is for.